Welcome back to Visited by Voices Live. I am fortunate enough today on the first show back in about, I don't know, 9 days, 10 days, something like that, to be joined by the great Jay the Stingray.
What's going on, man?
Hey, Jay. Hey, how are you, man?
Good to see you. Glad to be here.
It's always an adventure when you get the two of us together. So I think people will be excited for a show that's a little less politically correct than they're used to, but still within the safe rounds where you're not going to see, an X-rated video pop up on screen.
Back in the saddle again.
Yeah, it's that sweet spot. So we have a few comments already, a couple questions already up in the comments, but I want to just start kind of in another place with you. I know that you're a big music lover, especially during the years when you grew up. We kind of come from kind of the same general background in music. So I wanted to show something. I was sent so many great gifts while I was recovering. It's an amazing thing. I mean, we can just keep going and 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 going. And it's like awesome. So many people from around the community made me feel so like, I don't know, loved is the word I want to use. I don't know if that's really where people are comfortable with, but today I got a really unusual one. And this is, I won't say what it came from because it came with a note that was kind of personal, but I think the item is just so cool. And if you know anything about me, in the beginning of my professional life, when I got out of high school, I ran record stores. And one of my big passions has always been the promotional sampler, both CDs and cassettes and vinyl, because they weren't made available to the general public, but they were it was like cutting a tree in half. You got to see all the rings of music that were happening at that time from a label. Now, my favorite record label of all time is Enigma Records, which they were out of El Segundo, California. They put out a lot of punk and early industrial and heavy metal. Metal Blade Records actually started under them and then went to Warner Brothers and then ultimately was independent. But I was sent a cassette from 1989 called Enigmania. And this was still in the shrink wrap when I got it. So this is my first brand new cassette in probably, 25 years.
Very
First
cool.
time I'd broken the cellophane on it. And to answer the question everyone's been asking me, I don't have a sense of smell, so no, I don't know if it had the cassette smell, because everyone seems to ask that question. Someday I'll have to have someone describe to me what that smell is. But because the writing's too small on the back to get on screen, I'm just going to tell you, here's the bands on this. Consider this moment in history. The Smithereens, Game Theory, Don Dixon, Mojo Nixon, the Close Lobsters, Wire, Velvet Elvis, The Dream Syndicate, the Dell Lords, Mojo Nixon and Skid Roper, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Sonic Youth, Liebach, the Dickies, the Dead Milkmen, Eric Ambel, Devo, Bill Nelson, He Said, Perubu, Hurricane, Death Angel, and Motorhead. That was all what that label had released in the last 12 months.
So what's the purpose of that? They would send that out as a sampler to stores?
Record stores. Yeah. Record stores. The idea was always to get a lot of your music played in the record stores because that led directly to sales.
Yeah.
Now with a label like Enigma, because their audience wasn't quite as mainstream as like Warner Brothers or EMI, Capitol, RCA, the amount of these promotional items are pretty limited. I mean, there's probably a couple hundred rather than thousands and thousands that existed. So I've always loved them and always collected them. And for someone to have dug, I don't know if they eBayed it or found it in the wild, but it really meant something to me because I know I've mentioned Enigma Records and I've mentioned my background. So the fact that someone put the pieces together and sent it to me to make me feel good a week after recovery is
very cool.
Yeah. So I wanted to say thank you and I wanted to show that off. And also I wanted to show what an incredible period of music 1989 was. Because when you look back, everyone thinks, oh, hair metal was huge, but everything was happening. Right?
That's before you were working in the record store, right?
2 years before.
Oh.
91. I was hired on Halloween 1991.
Wow.
As just a regular associate. Within a month, I had keys, and within 6 months, I was running the store.
Yeah.
Simply because not a lot of choices.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start in with. Unless, did you have anything you wanted to talk about before we take questions, or?
No, just I'm glad you're back. Glad everything's going okay. We missed you there. We were all thinking about you.
Well, I appreciate that. Shows for a while are going to include one of these on my crotch, so just how it is. So let's start it off with Davern. He asks, "What's your opinion on Lamberto Bava?" That's Lamberto, not Mario, mind you. His horror movie catalog.
I mean, I like Lamberto Bava. He hasn't really done a whole lot, though, has he? I mean, I know he did the Demons films, and he did Blade in the Dark.
Blade in the Dark, and his first film is Macabre, which I like a lot. It's a little bit harder to find because I don't think there was a US DVD. I think maybe Synapse but it never made the jump to Blue. Macabre's a really messed up film with a really crazy ending. I like that film a lot. I think that might be my favorite Lamberto Bava film. Blade in the Dark, I love the bathroom murder. It's awesome, obviously. But it's also a problem because you get this big Argento-esque murder sequence, and then the film doesn't have anywhere really to go after that. I love Demons. I don't love Demons 2 because it's just demons again in a worse setting. Delirium, I get why people love it. I think it's kind of a special effects showreel film more than anything. And then, of course,
God, he did the Ogre. I forgot he did the Ogre.
Yeah. Well, the Ogre was a television project that eventually got released as a feature film. There was a couple of those, and that's bad. That's just straight up bad. Also, he did The Mask of Satan, which was kind of the pseudo sequel to Black Sunday, his dad's film. It's not good.
Yeah. You think it's just budget constraints? I mean,
yes.
I think he's a talented guy.
Well, he's a little bit later than the other guys, right? So, when we talk about this era, we talk about your Argentos, and we can't talk about his dad because that goes back to the late 50s, but you talk about Argento and Fulci and Martino. These guys came up in the 70s when the Italian industry had lots of money because exported Italian films had lots of market available to them. Hollywood hadn't gone into the blockbuster era wholesale yet. That happens with Jaws and Star Wars, and that's when the Italians start to get squeezed out, and it takes about a decade, but by 87 they're pretty much out of the international marketplace. There's just nowhere to sell to. Unfortunately, Lamberto Bava starts his career right in the mid 80s, so he only had a couple of years of budgets being in place. Certainly, he worked with some amazing people, no question about it. He started his career working for Pupi Avati, the director of House with Laughing Windows, who produced Macabre. He worked with Dario Argento on the Demons films. He worked with his father at the tail end of his career, obviously, he on Bay of Blood. So I think he's a guy with an immense amount of talent, and visually he can be stunning. But like anything, if you have to get it done yesterday and you don't have money to have more than a 20-day shoot, you're going to produce what you're going to produce. So the same thing that kind of happened with Fulci at the end of his career, and certainly is still happening with Argento. Do you have any favorites, Jay?
Of Bava?
Yeah, the Big L Bava, yeah.
I've been a big fan of Demons for a long time. I think that's kind of, having watched it quite a few more times, I think my love for it's kind of waned a little bit. I'd say that's probably my favorite of his films still. I actually saw one called Ghost Son from 2007, of all things, which is not good either. I was going through these. I was like, man, he's still doing stuff.
Yeah, well, a lot of the money went to, I know that he'd been working in television quite a lot in more recent years, because that's still kind of alive in Italy.
Right.
And Devon actually follows it up with another question. He says, are you familiar with Brividi Gialla, a series of 4 TV movies for the Italian television that Lamberto shot in the late 80s and are rather obscure among horror fans? Well, The Ogre is one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, the ogre is one of them. I don't know the other titles. There was one that was a vampire film that's really ridiculed among fans, but I don't know. I don't even really know the proper title of it. I think I just at that point when we're talking about the later stuff, you kind of don't have the passion to find all of it because your expectations are kind of kept in check.
And there's probably a reason why they're not available.
Yeah, I mean, even the Fulci television productions, they are what they are, right? I mean, grandma's house is grandma's house. Let's see. Captain Halloween asks, "Is this the Police Academy appreciation stream?" No.
I fucking hate Police Academy, and I know you're probably not a fan either.
I have so little memory of the franchise. I remember the first film was a big deal because it was a PG. Was it PG-13 or was it R? I don't remember. But
I don't remember either.
I remember it was a big rite of passage film because there's a wet T-shirt scene in it, and all the boys wanted to see it for that scene.
Right.
But I mean, that's not a good reason to be remembering a film. I mean, if that's what it's got going for it, it's probably best left in the rearview mirror.
That type of comedy is like nails on a fucking chalkboard to me. I mean, the first one is what it is, but as they go on, I've only seen maybe the first 3. There's like 12 of those fucking things, isn't there?
I don't know how many there are. I mean, again, not really my thing, so I kind of checked out early.
Yeah.
The thing about those long-running franchises in comedy at that time is that comedy was so cheap to make that they could just roll with it, and those actors kind of knew that you couldn't push for a real lot more money because the gravy train would end. It's kind of like television shows, like the Friends guys knew how much they could push for, but knew that there was a line where it was just not profitable anymore. So eventually, when the money wasn't being made, I guess it was just over. Let's see. Our friend Dan asks, "What were your thoughts on that last Indian horror film you saw in theaters?" So I'm not even going to try to pronounce the original title, but It's Hearts Never Forget is the translation. I loved it. It's insane. I don't know that it's a good film in some ways, but I think it's like unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It's about it's funny because to a certain point, it's going to sound like I'm telling you the plot of Saint Maud, but they couldn't be more different. It's about a young religious woman who goes to work for a wealthy family to take care of their kid, and bad things start happening. And it turns into one of the most strangely psychedelic, weird things ever. One thing I love about it is it did kind of what David Lynch did with season 3 of Twin Peaks, which is that it intentionally used bad special effects for effect. And when it starts to do it, you're like, oh, is this just bad? And you realize that no, it's part of the aesthetic they're going for because they're very intentionally just throwing these things in your face. But it becomes very surreal and very, very strange, and I thought captivating.
It sounds like something I want to check out.
Yeah, I think the AHA service, which is a streaming service that covers Indian and Pakistani and some of the satellite Asian nations films, has been grabbing up a lot of the Tamil cinema. So it looks like that's where it's going to land. So probably in about a month, you'll be able to find it. The service is like $12. I'd suggest like get it for a month, watch everything you want, and then cancel it.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't even heard of that service before. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's just AHA. A lot of foreign. Unfortunately, you won't find. I mean, there's Malaysian films, which is cool too, but you won't find like Turkish films. Yeah, that is a different service for that. Joe Bob Tarhill says, "Going in you too." I want anyone in the chat that can decipher that for me into a sentence that I can read. I don't know.
You caught me off guard with that one.
My friend Mike says, "What's up, guys?"
What's going on, Mike? Looking forward to your show coming up about 9/11 of all things.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But that will be a fascinating watch. So Dan follows up for a question for Jay. Does Hayden really not know who Vince McMahon is? If so, how many paint chips do you think he ate as a child?
I totally believe he doesn't know who Vince. Do you know who Vince McMahon is?
I do, because his wife was something in the government.
Oh,
he's a wrestling guy. I know,
right,
but
right. You know that much.
I couldn't tell you I couldn't tell you what he looks like, but that's. And Jess Graham is trying to help. He says inside of U2. He changed the spelling slightly. Oh, okay. Here, Mr. Tar Heel says it's going on U2 at Visited by Voices. What?
Like he's trying to say, like, what's up, maybe.
I don't. Dan is clarifying that it sounds like Joe Bob has some intimate intentions with you too. Well, the Edge needs love, right? Jeff Overings comes in with, "Hey everybody."
What's up, Jeff?
Here we go. Joe Bob Tar Heel says, "Type on my cell phone keypad, but I got Vienna sausage fingers." Well, at least you know if you're tight for a snack where you can look. Okay. All right. So it looks like we just got a lot of introductions going on right now in the chat. People just, if you want us to talk about anything, just throw them out there. We absolutely can riff off of just about anything. You got the right two people for that.
A little bit of news I saw earlier is their Showtime is adapting Let the Right One In into a TV show. So look forward to not watching that, right?
Well, will it be a sitcom?
Who knows?
I can imagine a theme song to that. You got to get. It's like Three's Company, but with a castrated vampire.
I say it's got to be death metal, right?
Well, I mean, there's a weird connection in my mind between The Littlest Vampire and Let the Right One In anyway, so it's not completely crazy. I always thought also Small Wonder was strangely similar to Deadly Friend.
Yeah. Small Wonder may be better than Deadly Friend.
I can agree with that. Okay, here we go. Davern says Scarecrow's 1988 and Grandmother's House 1988 opinions.
I would prefer Scarecrows.
I would as well. I think Scarecrow's is a fun little movie. I mean, it has its limitations, but it gets what it wants done, and it's a tight narrative. It never feels long. You put that movie on, it feels like a 40-minute movie, and it's an hour and a half. So, not something I would buy a special edition for $30 of, but certainly something that I wouldn't mind having for $7.
It's out there. I'm sure it's going for like $50 or something.
I'm sure, with a slipcover.
Yeah.
I should have saved the slipcover, but I got rid of it on region free.
This one doesn't have a slipcover, but thanks to you, I was able to pick up the empty red box. I haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Well, I'm excited for you. It's so good and so ignored in the community, and which I still don't understand.
If anyone's wondering why I bought this from Redbox, I think this is the only way you can get this on physical media at all, right?
Or steal Redbox by mail's copy. Or what is that? This Netflix by mail. It's called.
Are they still doing that? I don't even know if they're still.
Yeah, it's called something else now. They rebranded it so that when they do kill it, it doesn't hurt the brand, but it still does exist, and they do have copies of it. But it's the same disc. That DVD looks great, by the way. It's a great transfer.
Cool.
I mean, we'd all love to have like some super deluxe edition, I guess, but I'm just happy that somehow. I do recommend everyone, if you think you want that movie, go to your Redbox right now.
Get it now.
Yeah, you want to go to their website and find out which of the machines sell movies, because there is a section of the website that tells you, and do it. Because once those copies are gone, I mean, it's officially on Disney's website as a digital-only title, by the way. So I don't think there's any plans. So that's not good.
I think we're seeing the future of film.
I think you're right. I think that there will be a boutique situation for a couple years, but I think prices are going to go up on those boutiques. And then, I mean, at what point, Jay, do you stop buying boutique titles? What's the price point where you just can't justify it?
It depends on what it is. If it's just your average movie, I mean, I'm not spending over $20, man. If it's something I love, I mean, super special edition, maybe 45, 50. That's the top though. That's got to be for something I love, you know.
I absolutely know.
I mean, I don't know. I guess we're there because you know, I hate to. We always harp on this, but you know, I think we're seeing the writing on the wall in front of us. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's going to hit us in weird spots. Like Empty Man is a really weird title to lead the way in like digital only, I think. It got a theatrical release. I mean, albeit during the pandemic. It has known actors in it. You know, Marin Ireland, everyone was freaking out because of her awesome performance in Dark and Wicked is in Empty Man. So it's not like a small title for the genre. It's a pretty substantial title. So if Disney, who own it because they bought 20th Century Fox, feel like there's no place for it on the marketplace, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. All right. So Griffin, who if you haven't checked out the long portion of my conversation with Griffin that I put up the other day, check that out. Guy has an amazing Del Abyss line collection. Asks, what are your thoughts on Fright Night and its sequel? I guess you can include the remake and the sequel to the remake in that too.
I haven't seen the remake. I've seen the sequel to the remake for some reason. But I'm not gonna. I mean, I like Anton Yelchin and everything, but I'm not gonna go watch that. I love the original film. I like the sequel. Okay. Yeah.
I am. It's a film that never connected with me. The original. I like it. It's fine. I wouldn't turn it off if it was around me. But it's like never a movie I've gone out of my way to like surf down a great copy of or anything like that. I like what Roddy McDowall was channeling. I know this is gonna sound really petty, but Vincent Price was alive. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the time where you shell out for the real deal.
Yeah.
How amazing would that have been? Yeah. Or Chris Lee. I mean, there was choices. That's what I'm saying. And I think Roddy McDowall isn't without his horror credits. Don't get me wrong, but I just think you could have gotten one of the icons, the legit icons. Besides that, it's kind of just a rear window meets Dracula. I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. But
no.
I kind of agree with you. It never really hit with me the way it hit with a lot of other folks.
So many people.
You know, I like the film. I wouldn't say I love it as well, you know, as much as others. I'm not going to go, you know, watch it every other day or whatever. But I was at a convention a few years ago, and the whole cast was there that's still alive. And I just got Tom Holland to sign some Child's Play stuff. It's you know, if I'd had $500, maybe I could have gotten all of them to sign some. You know, 8x10s or something.
That brings up a topic I do want to talk to you about, but I'm gonna wait on it.
Okay.
Fright Night 2 is a film that in recent years has been like championed a lot. And I saw it on video originally. I don't think it had very much of a legitimate theatrical release because I think I would have gone to see it. I think it had to be very spotty or maybe select cities or something.
That's kind of odd. It was a pretty successful film, the original, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But it was, you know, it was kind of an indie thing, too. And indies we're approaching like the Jurassic Park years and the T2 years as that sequel gets off the ground. And
that's true.
Theaters are going to multiplexes. The independent theaters are moving away from that stuff. But anyway, I saw it on video and I remember liking the movie, but thinking it looked cheap in parts. And so it always kind of stuck with me as well. It's kind of clearly a cash-in sequel. And I never thought more of it. But so many people, in our circle, love it and think it's better than the original. And I have trouble with that. Because even though I don't love the original, I definitely see it as a better film than the second film.
I'd like to see like a behind the scenes documentary on that, because a bunch of shit went down, with I think Mendez was murdered around that time, and
yeah,
other stuff like that. I'd love to see what all went on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I'd also just like, to be honest with you, I'd like people's to be able to review the film without its rarity be blocking their view. If it was available everywhere easily, I think we might see a kind of tempering. And I don't mean to tell people what their tastes are. Your opinion is completely valid. I'm not saying that. But I think that I remember when I was buying a lot of bootleg VHS tapes back in the day because it wasn't available. When you got a copy of something, you overlooked so much because you were so excited to finally be able to see these films that you'd only read about in magazines. And I'm wondering if a little bit of that effect is still going on with that movie in particular.
Like we can't find it, so it's got this mystique around it. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
I've seen that with a lot of movies lately, especially. But
yeah.
I will tell people this: it is on YouTube. It's a great HD copy on YouTube, or at least there was last I looked. Looks great. If you want to watch it there, save your money. Just watch it there.
Yeah. Mike is saying that Captain America is LGBTQWTF.
Man, they've added a bunch of more letters to that, haven't they?
I'm not even going to decipher that. I'm pretty liberal about this. I think that people should just say, "Hey, I'm me. I like what I like." I think it's a better world. We don't need more tribes and acronyms. We need people just to say, "Okay, you do you."
No judgment. Yeah, go for it.
Orc is saying that this stream is not fake and homosexual.
Oh, Orc.
I just skipped past things. All right. I'm sorry if I skipped any of you guys. I just I didn't realize that there was like 30 comments that just roared past. Dan says, what are your favorite Irish horror films in honor of the holiday?
Hammer put out a pretty good one a few years ago. I can't think of the name of it. Can't think of the name of it.
I think last year's the film about the Thing movie in the ocean. What was that called?
Sea Fever.
Sea Fever. It's pretty substantial. I like that movie a lot. Again, I like bleak movies, and I like films that feel like they're descending. So that kind of hit me in the sweet spot.
It's a good question, Dan. I'm sure there's a lot that I'm leaving out here that I'm not thinking of.
Now we're sounding like we hate the Irish.
It's just you don't really think, I don't categorize it in my mind. Oh, that's an Irish film. I may. Let's see if I can find the damn title that I was looking for. Wakewood.
Sure.
I believe that's Irish. Co-production between Ireland and UK. Okay. Well.
That it still counts. Sure. Everything's a co-production with the UK because the UK, conquered and all that. In the 80s, they were at least trying to, blow up a few vans to make things right. Jess Graham says he misses me. That's why I translate all that too. So don't worry, I'm coming inside you too, or whatever the hell Joe Bob said earlier. Orc asks thoughts on Hot Pockets.
I guess they'll do in a pinch. I'm not a big fan, but
they have a lot of cheese in them that makes me sick. Jeff asks, what are your guys' thoughts on Blood Diner?
I'll let you go first.
So it really is going to depend on how you feel about H.G. Lewis, right? Because it's just an H.G. Lewis film made better, like on a higher quality production. Like it's a real movie, almost. there's a lot about it I really like. The thing is, it kind of feels like early Jackson to me, in that it's really easy to love it for what it is, but it's really hard to watch it often enough to really call it a favorite. I don't turn Blood Diner off ever, and I do own the movie. I'm one of those 8 film packs on DVD, and that's kind of perfect.
Yeah,
you know?
that's kind of the same way I feel about it. It's Jackie King, is that the director of that one? Jackie something. Anyway, yeah, I like it. Okay, I'm not a huge fan or anything.
Jess wants to know thoughts on Pet Sematary and Pet Sematary 2.
I love them both.
The original Pet Sematary I like quite a lot. Growing up, I didn't love the King novel. I felt that it was kind of just the monkey's paw at a time when King was becoming so big, and it seemed like such an easy route to go. Now, having reread it maybe 15 years ago, I realized that I was just being a kind of dickish young guy, and it's a way better novel than I gave it credit for. I don't think it's perfect. But I think it is one of King's best works overall. I think the film captures a lot of that. I will go out on a limb here and say that, and everyone's gonna hate me, I didn't need the scary old cancer woman. I didn't need it in the movie. It to me, it stops the narrative dead, and it's like, okay, she's kind of creepy, but whatever. The rest of the movie is better for me without it.
I 100% agree with you, but that's what everyone seems to go back to. They're like, when I saw that scared me so badly, you know?
Yeah, and maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think it aids the story at all. It doesn't add, like, they needed a way to take that fear and transpose it into the final act, and they don't. It's just a kind of cul-de-sac dead end.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would have gotten rid of that. Other than that, I think it's a pretty damn tight movie. Pet Sematary 2, I don't have a lot of fond memories of, but I've only ever seen it once. I remember like thinking, what is this? This is kind of a Nightmare on Elm Street type horror comedy type thing. So I'm just not interested.
I saw it in the theater, and I didn't like it at first because I was such a huge fan of the original at the time. And I've come around to it because it's just stupid and cheesy, and I like that, about it. It's kind of like a heavy metal version of the first one. I mean, hell, it's got Eddie Furlong in it.
Yeah, that's pretty much a prerequisite for heavy metal horror at this point. Take the Ring asks, how's that Dracula print reissue project coming along? I'm about halfway there. Right now, all the art and all the packaging on it is done. Right now, I'm just combing through the text to make sure all the formatting page by page is exactly what I want it to be. I think it's going to be a very handsome edition. I think you guys are going to be very, very, very happy with it if you decide that you need a copy of one of the greatest pieces of horror fiction ever published in your home. Just to remind everyone, the reason this happened is because I was talking to someone online about the fact that they brought up there wasn't a good-looking modern copy of Dracula. They all kind of look like Penguin Classics with like watercolor art on the cover, and everyone was kind of like, and it was really clear to me that we needed something that was classy and deserving, like the title is, but also real modern and would entice people to take it seriously as a modern piece of fiction, because it does not read antique. It reads it's pretty much an action novel. It's epistolary, so it's letters mostly and journal entries, but yeah, I'm going through it because it's journal entries and letters. There's a lot of formatting. A normal novel wouldn't probably take this kind of long time, and I'm not an editor by any means, right? The good news is I don't need to edit the text at all. I just need to format it, but because I'm not used to using the tools, I'm probably taking 3 times longer than the average person would.
That's really cool. I didn't realize you were doing that.
Yeah. Hopefully by the end of the month we'll be rolling on that, and we'll do a show where we announce the title, and I'll show off a copy. And I'm not looking to get rich off of it. I just really want to have a copy out there that people can be proud to own. It's kind of like a disaster to consider that there's not a great cheap, because there's some expensive editions that are beautiful. But I don't think the average person really wants to spend $80 on a leather-bound copy of Dracula that they're never going to, actually read. So something that we can bring in under 20 that looks really nice, that looks modern and cool and crisp.
I've still got my old paperback.
Cool. We'll see if I can tempt you.
I'm sure you can.
Apollo Balboa 85 says, based on what you know about Halloween Kills, how do you foresee the overall reception? I think it's going to be very much like 2018. I've said this for a long time. I think at first people are going to look at the things that they like about the movie, and they're going to just celebrate those things. And especially because the Halloween franchise fans are like battered wives. They've gone through a lot of shit. So when they see something that there's anything that they really like in it, they're going to be championing it, just like they did with 2018. And then I think over time, it's going to come down. Now, I do say there's a few things in this that I think people are definitely not going to react well to. If you thought the Sartain stuff in the first film was a problem, get ready for some stuff. And get ready for a lot of humor. Like, the film almost has a tendency towards like Marvel quips that I think people are going to be pretty taken aback by. Well, there is some of that in 2018, but there's going to be more. Also, I think a lot of people are still up on this, Laurie Strode trilogy thing, and she's not got the kind of screen time you probably think she does in this one. There's characters that are kind of sacred cow characters that are changed fundamentally in this, and I think that's going to be something that people are going to need to be on board with. So I think there's a lot that could go very wrong for this movie. All that said, I've not seen the movie, right? Maybe in the context of the film, all this works. And if that's the truth, I'm going to be the first guy who steps out and says, you know what, I was dead wrong. The information I got was right, but in context, it all looks great. But I have a feeling I'm going to have a similar reaction to 2018. A lot more gory, though. This is going to be a very gory film.
That's good. That's a good thing to hear.
I guess.
I got peanut butter in my penis. That's all I can say.
Oh, funny you mention that. Meanwhile, I have an ice bag.
Yeah. So it's confirmed that's going to digital, right? Straight to digital.
It hasn't been officially stated yet, but it seems like there's been plenty of leaks that it is, which actually leads a bigger question to Halloween Ends, because that film is not, in the can. It's not done. So there's been a big gap that they weren't anticipating here. If the second film comes out digitally and doesn't do as well as previously thought, I don't think they'll cancel the film, but there's every possibility that film's budget gets changed, or, I don't know. I think there's a lot that could change for that third film. COVID hasn't been kind to very many.
I know a lot of people are really, really anticipating it, so
I hope they get what they want. I really do.
I don't know if it can live up to the hype.
I don't know. Mike says he always thought Fright Night was overrated. Well, sir, it seems like we're uncovering an unspoken common thought tonight. Jess says, I love the original Fright Night, but don't care too much for part 2. Fright Night remake was okay, but the remake sequel was trash. I didn't talk about the remake or the sequel. The remake was just whatever. It really was just whatever. It was like I forgot about everything as soon as I left the theater. The sequel I saw on streaming because it's like available everywhere for free. And I don't remember a thing about that either, except that I didn't like it as much, so it couldn't have been very good.
Yeah, McLovin and I don't know. Seems like an odd casting choice as Evil Ed.
Yeah. So Davern says he thinks Peter Cushing would have been a better choice for Peter Vincent's character in Fright Night than Vincent Price or Christopher Lee. He was the Van Helsing after all. Yeah, listen, I think any of the British icons would have been fine. And McDowell is fine. He's fine. I just think there was an opportunity for something a little bit elevated there. Dan is confirming that Fright Night 2 was basically direct to video, but got a limited release. It must have been because I mean I'm a guy who since I got a car under me has gone to see every theatrical genre film that I can, and it's one that slipped through me. So, but now he's gonna get me in trouble. Davern says he likes Fright Night way more than he likes The Lost Boys or Near Dark, two flicks that unjustly kind of just steal its thunder. So
you're a Near Dark guy, right?
I am a huge Near Dark guy. So I see Lost Boys. I don't have any love for. It's just whatever. That to me is like Young Guns Part 3. That's what that movie is. Young Guns, the vampire movie. It's that teen idol bullshit. Almost a Corey's it is a Corey's, I guess. Yeah, whatever. It's just not for me. It's not something I can judge properly because I just don't like that sort of thing.
I know I did a list of my top 10 vampire films a few months ago, and I got a ton of shit for not having either one of those on there. Or I don't know if I had Fright Night on there either. I had Near Dark on there, I think, but I didn't have the other two.
What was Let the Light right in at the top?
I believe so. You probably guessed that.
I wouldn't have criticized your choices. I mean, besides, your choices are your choices. But I mean, I think of the three of them, Near Dark is the one that feels the most like a modern horror film. Like Fright Night is again has that horror comedy thing going.
Near Dark, I just wish there was more actual vamping out, vampire stuff. I know, there's some of it in there, but I would just like more, more creature effects, more, biting necks and stuff.
Well, it's a very grounded,
it is
like vision of vampires. I mean, John Carpenter's vampires later tried to have it both ways, right? It's kind of the vampire Western again, but now it's like, oh, we're going to go a little bit more creature. I just think Near Dark with those performances, and listen, you should be happy. That's the Aliens cast. And I'm championing it, right? See, that's the good movie they made. Couldn't go a stream with you without.
We'll save that for another time.
Exactly. So Jamie is saying that she liked the remake of Fright Night, but she's also a fan of the original. Thoughts on the remake? Again, I don't remember much about it. I don't know.
I haven't seen it. I'm just at a point now where I don't give a shit about remakes. I actually did watch Bernard Rose's Frankenstein recently, and I kind of like that. But
there's a guy who should have a lot more projects handed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Davern is saying that he likes Fright Night 2013 better than the first remake. Okay, I don't remember enough about either of them. I just remember my take at the time was I didn't like it as much as the remake, but I didn't really like the remake. So I guess take that as you will.
Yeah, I'm like you. I really don't remember a lot about the sequel. I mean, it doesn't say much if neither one of us can remember much about it, right?
And Sean is having the last word on Fright Night because we're not going to talk about Fright Night anymore. He says that Near Dark is better than Fright Night. Well, hallelujah, sir.
They're completely different films, though. So
yeah. Griffin is asking thoughts on Mountain Dew Baja Blast. I don't think they make a diet version of it, so I'm not even sure I've had it.
There is a zero of that.
Is there?
Is
that the new one? No, the honeydew. The
watermelon or something is the new one.
Yeah, I've had that one after work showcase that there was a zero of that.
Is that good? The watermelon one?
It's good. I struggled to drink the whole case of it though.
I'm not a big watermelon guy. That's why I've kind of been.
I like watermelon candy, but I don't. This like as a drink, it's a little bit. It's just like strawberry flavored drinks. It's like it sounds like a good thing, but it's not really. And Davern wants us to at least mention Vamp in the 80s vampire thing.
I like Vamp okay.
It's okay. I haven't seen it in many, many years, and I'm not going to rush. I know
Grace is great. I love Grace in there.
Christian Hanna loves it. That's like one of his favorites. Dan is saying that A Dark Song is a recent Irish horror film I really like. I have not seen that.
Me either.
And Sean is saying he's Irish, so everyone hates him. Well, self-awareness is the first step to recovery. No, Sean, we love you.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. I don't believe the Irish actually celebrate St. Paddy's Day, do they? They have a different day.
He seems to make me think they do.
Oh, okay.
I don't know though.
I thought he was the one that said that like there's a different day there, and in the UK there's a different one, a different Saints Day.
Yeah, I'm not all about my Saints, you know. I have a cat named Saint. So Jess says, I don't know about Irish horror, but one movie I always relate to St. Paddy's Day is Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Leprechaun series could also work. So I'm not going to talk about Darby O'Gill because I haven't seen it since I was like 9, but I loathe the Leprechaun films, all of them. To me, and it's weird because I actually like the Child's Play series just fine. So it's not like it's below me in any way. It's just there's something about those movies. Whew.
I'm not the biggest fan of them either. It's part 3 or whichever one was go to space. That was damn near unwatchable.
Mike is asking, have we seen Lair of the White Worm from '88? I think you'd like it. Yeah, I did. I actually did see it in the theater. There was a theater in Easton, Pennsylvania that played it, so we drove like an hour at that time, and we saw it. And I remember it being a really weird experience because I was younger, right? I was in my teens. Sorry. Oh, coughing is not good. It's a Bram Stoker adaptation, which of course helps. But of course, all that sexual stuff is not in the original story. So, Griff is saying that Near Dark is one of the worst Blu-rays ever released. Poor transfer and cover art is atrocious. Pure exploitation of cashing in on Twilight.
I agree with that. I remember that cover.
Yeah. There was the same release was actually released in Canada, but with better art. So I went for that import.
You know what, though? I mean, put a positive spin on that. You take somebody that's a big fan of Twilight, maybe they watch that and like it. So
that movie has a weird history as far as releases, too, because the reason it has a bad transfer is because the original elements are basically lost.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it went through a bunch of hands as far as who legally owned it. And along the way, the elements just got shanghaied somewhere. So, yeah, we'll probably never get a really great looking release of Near Dark. Unfortunately, I'd love to be wrong, but the kind of restoration work that would be necessary from the elements we have are just not going to be justified in sales, especially with physical media dying. I mean, right. As a streaming title that you're talking about pure just licensing money from here on out, I just don't think they're going to spend a couple $1 million to clean up Near Dark.
I do think that film has an audience now, more so than it used to. You know, people are aware of it. I mean, 15 years ago, people didn't know what Near Dark was. Yeah. The general.
Well, again, it fell into that weird Twilight. It was released on VHS by HBO Home Video, and I think a lot of us owned that VHS copy. Many of us bought it used from video stores because it wasn't priced very competitive for the longest time. And then it kind of just disappeared off the marketplace for a long, long time. So it was a film that you kind of, if there was a cable showing, people tended to tape it, and maybe you had a tape of a tape, or it wasn't that obscure because it was a major Hollywood release, but still. So Apollo Balboa 85 is saying Halloween 3 is his favorite Irish film.
Yeah.
Even it takes place in California, though. That's the thing, right?
And on Halloween.
Yeah. But Sean is saying that the Irish will rule the world one day. So here's my problem with that. There simply aren't enough of you guys to do that. It's a small island. Like, there's more people in New Jersey. So I could easily say New Jersey will rule the world, and that's probably a little bit more likely.
As long as Conor McGregor is not involved, I am cool with that.
Take the Ring is supporting the Dracula book. He says he's buying the first one. Well, you see, the thing is, after everything's set up, I need to get a test copy, so you can't have the very first one. Dan is warning people away from Leprechaun Origins, and honestly, Leprechaun Returns is surprisingly good. Yeah, I'm just gonna avoid them all.
Those are both in the Leprechaun franchise, right?
Who knows?
God damn it, Dan knows about everything.
Not Dan. So I got to take that. I'm going to stop here for a second because this is actually the subject I wanted to talk to you about. Dan is a great example of exactly what I think is strongest about our community. It's people who existed, definitely have been in the wider horror community in some pocket. And it's kind of great when someone like Dan comes to us because there's a lot to be said about people who know a lot and have seen a lot and have great opinions and can back up what they say, but also have a humility to them. I'm not picking on anyone on any other shows anywhere, but there's a lot of people out there that treat like other people in the community like dirt, or think it's funny to rag on people endlessly. And Dan's just not that guy. Dan is a nice guy. He's helpful. I've asked Dan for things, for help and things, and he's always said, absolutely. Mm-hmm. We need a lot more of that. So if you guys ever find anyone out there, if you're watching a show, a different YouTube show that's not a member of our like circle, invite them over or get in touch with one of us and say, check this guy out or this girl out. Because we need to get as many of the great people from around the community as possible.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Because I think what we have going and what we're growing here is just an amazing thing. And I think once we all start to go back out to conventions, some of us are actually going to find each other out there in the wild.
When I first got on YouTube, like 2009, there was a community like that, and it slowly, dwindled away as people, whatever, lost interest, whatever. But it was probably 100 people that, we had a really tight knit community, and I'm still in contact with some of those folks. Pizzow being one of those, Rio Magnifico. There's a few other guys that I still talk to now, but yeah, it's starting to remind me of that again. And, it's a great feeling. It really is.
Yeah. And it's all you guys that are doing it. Honestly, I remember, God, a year ago now, which is insane for me to think about. But a year ago, I kind of as I was just starting to do live streams, I said, I really want everyone out there that wants to do a live stream to do a live stream. If I want everyone to, and I'm not saying it had anything to do with me. But I'm saying that perhaps just hearing someone say it's okay to do it, I really want everyone out there, whatever you can bring to the table, bring it, because we have a chance here. We have a real chance to build something that I think can actually help the genre. I'd love to get to the point where it's like the community is so lush and so full that maybe we don't even need YouTube. Maybe it'll be bigger than that, or big enough to survive outside that, which would open up a lot of doors for us. A lot of doors. Yeah. So here's a question for you. And this is where all that leads. What would you say the most surprising thing that people don't know about Region Free / Sausage Factory is?
Do you have an answer?
Oh, I have my answer, but yours could be completely different.
I don't know. I don't have anything loaded.
Because I would say, and this will give you some time to think, but I think that people think that we all are very similar people, and we're not. When people hear that, okay, there's people have different opinions, or there's definitely strong opinions at times. The amazing thing is we're a community and we love each other, but we definitely are a family because we definitely disagree, and sometimes it's stark disagreements. Mm-hmm. And not that needs to be public, but I think it's healthy for people to know that sometimes in any community, it's okay to have really strong different opinions, and it doesn't have to devolve into the point where you can't work with people, right?
Right.
And I think that Region Free especially has been a good example of that. A lot of people come from very different places, different mindsets. Piz and me are fairly good examples. Like Piz loves what I would call the guilty pleasure horrors. Like that's his main thing. Doesn't mean he doesn't love legitimately great films. I'm not saying that, but what's really at the center of his heart are films that I can't love. I love some bad horror films, yes, but I place them in a different category. It's like, oh, I know these are kind of shitty, but I love them anyway. It's kind of like, you have the third kid and he didn't quite come out like you want. But I just think I think people think of Region Free as this like very harmonious thing, and it's not. It's a bunch of individuals who come together to hopefully provide you guys with something really strong and interesting, but we come from very different places.
Mm-hmm. We're still a work in progress too. We're trying to improve on ourselves at all times. And
definitely.
Back to the community thing. I think it's really important to stay positive about everything. And if someone has a blank spot in their watch history or whatever, you don't need to shun them or whatever. Recommend stuff from certain periods of time. There's plenty of decades that I haven't seen a lot of films in. I'm doing my best to do my homework, but.
Listen, we talked about Dan a moment. Dan is constantly telling me about new stuff because I don't watch as much of the new stuff as other people in the community do. And part of that is because I get burned so often, so it's good to have someone like him I can lean on. And that's true.
I was going to say, like I said in the chat, Dan doing the lifting, so we don't have to. He's watching all the garbage, so you don't have to waste your time. He'll let you know what's worth it.
Yeah, and it makes me really proud. Like in my talk with Griffin, when you talking to him, he discovered Del Abyss through me, and now it's a big thing in his life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me really proud, not just because I brought people like Brian Hodge and Kathy Kocha and Melanie Tam, but because someone got legitimate enjoyment out of me opening my mouth. And I've gotten legitimate enjoyment out of other people, the Region Free crew, my community here. Definitely the S'mores and Doors guys. They bring things to me that I would never have done on my own or experienced on my own.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really amazing thing.
I'll say one thing I don't think people know about myself personally. You could probably tell, but I was extremely nervous when I first started the Sausage Factory. Extremely nervous. And I was talking about like Korean horror and stuff, and nobody knew what the hell I was talking about.
That's awesome.
But
Korean horror? You mean the host? Like the only one?
I mean, it's really helped me kind of, come out of my shell, in a personal life too, to talk to people and stuff. I've always been kind of a shy guy, kind of a agoraphobic type guy, but I'm getting there.
Well, I think we all, I have this pet theory, and Jamie, if you're still out there, it's okay. Tell me I'm wrong, because I know we've had this discussion, but I think everyone who gravitates towards horror is broken in some small way. Some people not as small as others. I mean, we all have our personal issues we're trying to work through. I think it's a very natural fit to go towards kind of this subversive, morality and mortality plays as our entertainment. I think that we're searching for something that makes sense. That's why we find this stuff appealing, because God knows, like, I don't want to actually look at like train wreck victims or something. I mean, that's not my thing. But you put it on film and dramatize it, and I'm all there.
Yeah.
That Final Destination film I need to see. But I think we're all looking for something, and that's why community is so important. And that's why I wanted so much for us not to just think of it as, oh, I watch this thing once a week, or if this guy uploads a video, I watch his review. We need to be more involved with each other than that. We need to kind of help each other find the good stuff, because I think we're all working through something. And it's different in every case, but we can't all have been cheerleaders in high school. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think we're going to have a lot of that. I think Jamie may have been one, but I think for the majority of us, I don't think we have to worry about that. Got a ragtag bunch.
Orc says, everyone always jerks off Japan. I'm one of the few holding it down for South Korea. Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, I jerk them both off, I guess.
Yeah. Oh. See, I remember discovering there was movies made outside this country. I remember that process, because Italian films tried to be American films to outward
Mhm.
experiences. So it's one of the reasons that it's so easy for people to get into that as the first like outside the borders horror. But and today looking back, it's so easy to see that that it's not. But as a kid, you know, you see Tenebrae at 13 years old. Sure, why not? It takes place in Rome, but it's an American film.
Yeah.
And
That was always so odd to me. Like I didn't understand that it was dubbed over. Like even Godzilla films, you know, to a certain age, you know, I figured it out. But like, man, it sounds so weird, and you know, it's not matching up with their mouth.
well, I disclude Godzilla films from what I just said only because they were so obviously like something different. But again, it was about monsters. I was cool with
Right.
it. But I remember like during my early tape trading days, people saying, "Oh no, this movie comes from Taiwan," and I'd be like, "What? How is it? Am I going to understand it?" I mean, it was a whole different world. And as I started to realize that, wow, there's movies made in the genre from everywhere, and a lot of them are pretty amazing. That was a big deal to me. It was really important to me to discover that different cultures had a lot to say about these same things, because even by my late teens, some of it was getting repetitive in the American cycle, you know? So discovering Japan and discovering Australia, you know, I mean, it didn't have to necessarily be a different language. Sometimes it just had to be far enough away. And it took me forever to find Mexican horror, which today is like a big thing for me. But I don't know. I think that discovering films outside our borders is really, really, really important. And I wish more people would explore a little bit more, because I think that what you're searching for is probably going to, in most cases, come from outside our borders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think streaming even opens that up even more. Positive thing about streaming, you know, as I know it wasn't until, you know, the advent of DVD that I was able to see a lot of, you know, Asian films. I wasn't like involved in the tape trading scene like you were. So it was a lot of things I'd wanted to see that, you know, Tartan Extreme or whatever, you know, the Asian line was called.
Absolutely.
Put out a ton of that stuff. And I'd drop $35 on a DVD every other week, you know.
Yeah. But I think that it really helped make things clear to us that there was more.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got any final questions for us, get them in the chat. I know it feels like we just began, but we've been going an hour. And soon I'm going to have to change the ice bag. So get your final questions in here, and we'll hit them if you want. You know, the other thing I was thinking about when we were talking about Lamberto Bava at the beginning is that for whatever reason, Argento and now Fulci, although not probably before the last 10 years, there's just these artists from overseas that really have kind of like become part of just the center mainline culture in America. And I maybe Andrea Aja would be another example of that. And I'm hoping that kind of continues, because I would love a day when such different viewpoints are really represented in the mainstream. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's the new Splat Pack is kind of different than what you anticipated, huh? You know, it's not the Eli Ross and the Adam Greens. It's these other more obscure guys that are really doing some great stuff.
Yeah. Dude is saying Rob Zombie is the Spielberg of horror.
I've got a few off-color jokes to make about that, but I'll save those.
If Rob Zombie, if Steven Spielberg had only ever made Always, that would be true. Griffin is asking, what do I think of The Innocents, the British black and white 1960s film? So it's an adaptation of Turn of the Screw. I like it a lot. I think that the problem the movie has with getting a new audience is that it is such, even in 1960, it was such a throwback already to the old dark house mysteries of the early 40s, that it's a film that never felt contemporary. It always felt like something antique and a little bit at arm's length. But I do love it. I think it's a great film. Certainly better than the Turning, the last attempt to adapt it.
Yeah. Man, how many times has that damn thing been adapted?
Oh, it's got to be
That
10.
book,
It's got to be 10.
at least.
Because there's this, there were, I mean, I remember Masterpiece Theater when I was a kid adapting it, and they stretched it out forever and it was bad. But
Yeah, I mean, you know the original story. I mean, kind of just a spoiler.
well, the worst to me, the Nicole Kidman film,
Oh yeah, what is that one called?
which is not technically
The others, is that
yeah,
it?
the others, which is not technically an adaptation of Turn of the Screw, but it's obviously riffing. Man, that film pisses me off every time I go anywhere near it.
And I watched it with my kids a year or two ago, and I don't like that movie.
I
I used
always
to like it.
uh, that what lies beneath all those like big studios attempting to slum in horror, but then like pretend they weren't slumming. They're all bad. We don't need that shit. We don't need Fatal Attraction. We don't.
What's the Kevin Bacon one? The first one he did.
The Matheson adaptation. Yeah. Why am I not? I can tell you that.
Man, I can't think of the title of it. My memory is not good tonight.
The Stir of Echoes.
That's it. What do you think of that one?
I think it's it suffers because it was made at a very specific time, so it kind of looks like The Sixth Sense and other movies like that.
Mm-hmm.
That presentation of the ghost story, but I think it's pretty much a good adaptation of the novel. So it's the better of the two, definitely. They always get compared because they came out so close together. But I
Right.
don't. But again, is it a film like I reach for? No, it just isn't. Oh, okay. Nico is saying he was slightly let down by Lamberto Bava's Blade in the Dark. Great story, some nice sequences, 25 minutes too long. Yeah, again,
100% agree. Yeah.
you get to that bathroom murder and then there's nothing for the movie to do. It's just...
I feel like it had potential. Just didn't quite get there.
Jacob saying The Innocents is a perfect movie or as close as you get to one. It's pretty damn good. I would say that the movie to compare it with, of course, is The Haunting, the Robert Wise film, based on the Shirley Jackson novel, and that is as close to a perfect film as you can get. I think The Haunting is just amazing.
I just watched the original Haunting for the first time, like around Halloween.
What were your feelings?
I loved it, but it's taken me this long to get to it. I've seen the damn remake,
The John DeBont film.
the terrible remake.
That was one of my worst movie going experience. Once I 10 minutes in, I realized that this was going to be a problem.
Yeah,
my heart just sunk because I'm a huge Shirley Jackson fan,
mm-hmm.
Huge, and oh god, no, I still haven't watched the adaptation of We've Always Lived in the Castle, and I really need to, but I'm so gun shy with adaptations of her work ever since that 1999 Haunting.
Yeah, I watched The Abominable Dr. Phibes and then The Haunting on the same day.
Oh, that's a good day.
Yeah,
that's a fun day.
It was good.
Have you seen the second Phibes movie?
Have not yet.
I like the first more, but the second one's definitely worth it. It's all Price. It's the Vincent Price show.
I'm getting there, man. I got to go to the 40s because
Yeah.
I've seen virtually nothing from the 40s.
I'm not as strong in the 40s as I am in the 30s, but then again, I'm pretty damn strong in the 30s. So.
Maybe it's the 30s I'm thinking of. What's the one that you've been trying to collect? 30s? Okay, that's what I'm thinking of then. Yeah. I'm green on all that.
It's such a weird decade because in 1930, nothing really happens in the genre. And then 1931, Dracula and Frankenstein come out. And just then the entire industry rushes to make horror films to the point where both Britain and America banned the production of horror films for a year. That happened. So that 1937, 36 through 37, nothing comes out because they were banned. And then you get 1938 and 39, you start getting them again. But so you're basically only talking about 6 years of production, but I think it's the best decade in horror. And, again, 3 years, nothing was produced, and it's still the best decade of horror. It's crazy. There's a lot of talk in the chat about Candle for the Devil. I'm not familiar with that.
Oh.
DJ Donnell is asking favorite Psycho sequel. I don't think that's a serious question though.
I'll go 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, 2 definitely all the way.
I like 2. I like 2 a lot, but
365. What's your thought on The Cellar? Only ever saw it once, Robert. Didn't really leave much of an impression, so I can't.
I don't think I liked it, honestly. Oh, that's Kevin City film. Okay. I may not have seen that one.
Well, let me ask you this, Jay. Have you seen The Sleeping Car?
I'm sorry?
Have you seen The Sleeping Car?
Sleeping Car. No, I don't believe so.
That was that whole time period, the 88 or 89, where a lot of these they were kind of like slated for foreign markets, and they got direct to video here, so they had a little bit higher budgets because they knew they could make money outside the US.
Okay.
If you like that sort of filmmaking, that's probably I would say the most stylish. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's the most stylish of that period.
David Naughton. Sure. I'll definitely check that out.
Griffin is asking, have I seen Eyes Without a Face? Yeah, I've seen Eyes Without a Face.
Man, I love that film.
Yeah. Jacob is suggesting that you need to watch all the Val Lewton films. Jay, yeah, now you've seen some, right?
I've seen some.
You've seen Cat People, right?
I've seen Cat People.
Cat People is a masterpiece. Again, if you want to talk about films that are as close to perfect as a film can get, I'd put Cat People there.
How do you feel about that remake?
I've never really liked it.
Is it Natasha Kinski in that?
Yeah, Natasha Kinski's in it. It's kind of just a shallow film, and the original does so much more with so much less.
Mm-hmm.
The eroticism is oddly unappealing in that film. Maybe that was intentional, but it kind of defeats its own purpose then. So, to me, I don't know.
That's all I remembered of it was the eroticism. That's kind of why I loved it as a kid. But
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a music video. I mean, it looks like basically a aha video. So, and Nico is asking about The Nanny with Betty Davis, a great, nasty, and poignant tale. Not sure I've seen it, and that's making me really kind of nervous.
I'm not familiar with it.
I'm going to write that down, and that's going to happen.
Yeah, I always get a long laundry list of films to watch.
Nico is you see, again, as well versed as I think I am in the genre, someone like Nico is a member of our community that's absolutely vital because he fills in my gaps. Okay, so apparently the film Candle for the Devil is on IMDb, has the alternative title is It Happens at Nightmare Inn, in which case I have seen it. Okay. It's whoever said that was your favorite film, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting film for a favorite. I'd have to revisit it. It was something I've rented on VHS and I haven't seen since. Okay. And Orc is saying, reposting because YouTube comments are dog shit. What are you both looking forward to the most this year? It could be anything.
A forced stimulus?
Not needing one of these.
I'm not. There's really nothing on the horizon as far as films go that I'm really that concerned about. That I'm that.
Rocky Siora's The Doll 3 should be coming out at some point this year. It was supposed to come out last October. I love that series of films. If you haven't seen the Doll films, you need to check them out. They start out really typical and feeling like Annabelle ripoffs, which is what they are until they're not. And then they go deeply off the deep end and go crazy. And I love
those. Were on Netflix at one time.
Yeah, you have to search for them. Because they don't show up in.
Yeah, I wish you could tailor that the way they, show stuff on there, but I don't think you can.
All right, Griffin's asking, how do you feel about John Carpenter disliking Val Lewton's films? He doesn't like how vague and opaque his films are. John Carpenter is a great filmmaker. But I don't think he's really a statesman for the genre.
No.
I think he would rather sit at home and watch, John Wayne westerns than horror films. I think we all need to face that. He made a career. He made a lot of money. He went where the money was, and he made some great films. But he never asked to be a spokesman for this genre, and he's not a good one.
No.
It's not taking anything away from his accomplishments. He's an amazing director. Has made some of my favorite films. I put The Fog in my top 50 films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, we got to get out of our own heads about what we think our heroes should be like. So he doesn't like Val Lewton. Cool. I I love Val Lewton. I love everything but the Curse of the Cat People, which is Drek. But whatever. As long as he made the films he made, I don't care what he likes or dislikes.
Well, I think my review of The Ward was actually vague and opaque. I think that's the exact terms I use.
Robert Long is saying Turner Movie Classics played The Baby. Have you seen that film? Yeah. I think that for something a little similar but more disturbing, more effective, Spider Baby. Go with that film instead. Nico saying The Nanny is a 1966 Hammer film written by Jimmy Sangster. Now I'm feeling even worse about it. Thanks, Nico. So I definitely have to get on that. Is that in that new box set with the 66 films or whatever?
I've got that on my list. Let's see how much that fucker is.
I want to get to 80. I can justify it at 80.
This must be a different one. This one's only 45. One I've got on my list is the 20 film set.
Yeah, no, there's a bigger box than that.
So I need to get the bigger one then.
Jacob's saying that It Happened at Nightmare Inn is his second favorite. Black Sunday is his favorite. And that is a damn good choice for a favorite film. It's not mine, but it's on my list too. That's a top 10 film. All right. So, Jay, what do you got coming up?
Let's see. Tomorrow night, I will be on Christian Hannah Horror Show. And Friday night on The Final Dungeon, we'll be doing a live commentary for The Wizard.
Oh, the Fred Savage movie.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, and I never will.
That should be fun. Yeah, you would not appreciate it.
I may watch it, guys, but I'm not going to watch along. So before we go, I do want to play something that has never been seen in its full uncut glory. And I think everyone should.
Why? It's not supposed to be like this. Why did he do it? Why did he do it to us? Why? That's good. Ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Nothing more needs to be said. Stay safe, guys.